So about a year ago, I did a video where I talked about my experience with Setraline. It had been about 3 months that I'd been on it, and I was basically documenting my initial experience with it, and I had a really great response from you guys. Thank you if you reached out. It was really great to hear from some of you who had either been on Setraline as well, or just was starting out and wanted some advice. So I really appreciate you reaching out, and it was really great talking to some of you. But I thought I'll do this update. It's a year overdue. I was meant to do it like 6 months into my whole journey with it, but this year has been a bit of a roller coaster, as I'm sure it has been for many of you, and I didn't really prioritize it, so I do apologize. But it's been about a year now that I've been on it, and I really thought it's quite important that I do this. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos from some of you guys out there who have shared your experience. So this is kind of my way of giving back. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to make a commitment to creating more content around mental well-being and mindfulness, and just about how to stay positive and what I kind of do and what I'm learning. And I hope to grow this channel into something that can be really helpful to other people. So I thought I'd do a quick recap of how my year has been on Setraline. In July of 2019, I had been in therapy for about a year, and it was then my therapist said to me, Rish, I think you should go on to Sertraline. I've never heard of what it was, and he goes, it will just give you a really good pick-me-up. He goes, it seems like you're still struggling in the mornings, and that's when my anxiety was kind of at its peak. So I said, fine. So I went to my GP, and I said to my therapist, has said that I should go on to Sertraline, and the doctor does this sort of checklist. You know, how are you feeling? Are you feeling suicidal? Da 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 da. And I got given Sertraline. The first 2 weeks of being on it were brutal. I felt like I'd been hit by a bus, but my mouth felt like I'd been chewing on sand. I was drowsy and really tired and sleepy, and all the kind of major symptoms that everyone talks about. It was about 2 weeks that was, sort of those symptoms were very, very prevalent. After, I'd say, about a month, those symptoms started to settle, and that's when I really started to feel the benefits. About 3 months in, things had really started to turn around for me. So my mornings where I would wake up feeling really anxious and very kind of tired and snappy and irritable, they were a lot more calmer. I felt a lot more energized, and generally my kind of outlook was really positive. And one thing that used to cause me a lot of stress was my work. And as I was kind of going into work, I used to get very, very kind of anxious and very sort of stressed and panicky. And and that was kind of my benchmark. That's kind of how I would compare. And that's when I noticed that this like medication was really starting to help me. About 3 months, no, I'd say about 4 to 5 months in, I had to go and see my GP again, and it was kind of like a review to see how I was getting on and if, I kind of wanted to come off it. And I remember going into that appointment very unsure about how I felt if the doctor said, I think you need to come off him. So when I sat down with the doctor and, we discussed how my experience had been so far, I mentioned to him that, things have been really great, and I think I might be able to kind of stop and come off them. And he goes, well, how are you feeling generally? I said, well, there's a slight part of me that's quite anxious about coming off these tablets. And it was kind of that feeling of going back to where I was before I started. And that's when he said to me, well, if you're feeling anxious about coming off these tablets, you're not ready to come off them. So I thought, fine, I'll give it a try for another 3 to 6 months. And that kind of took me into sort of 2020, I'd say around sort of April, May. And that's kind of when I was meant to go in for another review. But obviously this year, things have just been like absolutely crazy. The GP and our doctors have been really sort of stressed, and there's been a lot of pressure on them. So I've been hesitant to kind of go back and see the doctor for 2 reasons. Because I didn't want to be that patient that, sort of was taking up a slot where there's, other people who really need to see the doctor. And I kind of felt that I was okay. And, if I continued taking Setraline, it's not going to be the end of the world. I also was I wouldn't say I was anxious, but with everything going on and so much change and uncertainty, I felt that it might be the wrong time to start weaning myself off it. And I guess I didn't want to take that risk. And I thought, well, at least if I can see it through, I can see sort of like most of 2020 through, even though 2020 has been really positive for me personally, I kind of have used it as just kind of a safety net, if that makes sense. And that kind of brings me to where I am now. And a few weeks ago, I spoke to my doctor on the phone and I said, look, I think I'm ready to come off it. I want to kind of give it a go. And I'm now starting to wean off it. Now, one thing that's really, really important is that you should never just come off it. You need to wean yourself off it. And what that means is you sort of start to reduce the dose slowly. So what I'm currently doing is I'm taking half a tablet every day, whereas I was taking a full tablet every day. And then slowly, I'll start taking half a tablet every other day. And then come to a point where I stop it completely. And it's really important to wean yourself off. I know a few other people who kind of just stop straight away, and that can cause sort of really, really sort of bad, I wouldn't say side effects, but it can have a really bad impact on your system and, you know, your sort of your frame of mind. So I would really consult your doctor if you're thinking that you need to come off Setraline, and really work with them on sort of reducing that slowly over time. Setraline really isn't for everyone. I've got some very close people to me who have also tried it over the last year, and it's not worked for them at all, and they've experienced really bad side effects and symptoms, and it's just something they've not gotten over. I would say if that's you know your experience so far, don't think that all anti-anxiety tablets aren't for you. Go back to your doctor, speak to them, say this specific type isn't working for me. Is there something else you can recommend? And there's a whole variety of tablets within that kind of area that they can recommend. I would also say for me, I have not been purely dependent just on the tablets. What I realized quite early on is that I have to also work on myself. I have to strengthen my sort of personal development, what I do on a day-to-day basis to kind of be more positive, to be more mindful. And there's, you have to put in that effort, because you can't, it's not something that I want to rely on forever. I want to get to a point where I can manage without drugs. So it's really important. It's been really important for me to kind of work on myself every single day. And that's kind of some of the things I'd like to talk about in other videos. With the pandemic hitting us this year, it's been a bit of a roller coaster for I'd say for everyone. And I guess in the media at the moment, mental health and mental well-being is kind of like being discussed, more than ever before. Fortunately, 2020 has been a really positive one for me. And I kind of feel that all the work I did on myself kind of leading up to this year has really helped me get through this year. It's also been really fruitful for me in other ways. I've had the opportunity to launch 2 new projects, which I'll probably come on to discussing in later videos. They've been really, really great so far and really fruitful, and I'd really like to share some of that at some point. They're both around topics that I'm really passionate about and are super important to me. I also went on a fitness journey this year, and that for me has kind of been one of the biggest. It was one of my biggest challenges this year. But having achieved it and got to the end of it, it's really shown me that if I apply myself to something and I set my mind to it, I really can make it happen. I also moved out from my parents' house, and it's been something that I'd been wanting to do for some time, only for the reason of kind of wanting more independence and kind of wanting my own space. And I've moved in now with a really great friend, and that's been really, really great for me as well, and helped my mental health. Only because I feel a lot more independent. I feel like I'm in control of my time and my space and, what I do on a day-to-day basis. And it was one of the biggest issues for me when I was sort of in therapy and things like that. So that, again, has been a really, really great change for me. So as I mentioned, I'm going to commit to creating more content about mental well-being, mental health, personal development. I also run 2 businesses, which is my day-to-day work. So I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship and how to turn a passion and a hobby into something of some sort of a venture or, a project that has more impact. So I'd love to share more about my experience and some of the things that I've learned along the way. I've learned with mental health, and talking about mental health, it's a collective commitment. We all have to talk about it more. With our friends, our families, our colleagues. The more we talk about it, the less it's sort of looked at as something really negative. For me, I've always felt, and even more so now, that my mental health and my mental well-being is on a spectrum. There are days I feel absolutely amazing, I feel great, and I feel like I've made so much progress, and there are some days I wake up and I kind of feel like I'm back to square one. And it's really shown me that every day is a different day, and you feel differently, and it's just how you deal with it and how we accept it and acknowledge it and realize it, but then work on it and not let it affect us. So by creating more videos, I really hope that there's more, we can have more conversations and just share share more about what we're all doing and how we're kind of growing and developing ourselves. I'd love to know how your 2020 has gone so far. If you're on Setraline, let me know what your experience has been like so far in the comments below. If you're thinking about speaking to your doctor about going on to Setraline and you want more advice or you have any questions, please drop me a message as well and I'll be more than happy to chat. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It will really encourage me to be able to create more content and just make more time to create more content. And if there's anything specific you guys want to talk about, please let me know in the comments below and I can use that as inspiration to make more videos. Thanks guys. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. Take care. Bye.